Welcome to Not a Great Whisperer podcast. This is your host, Katie Ray. I am joined all the way from Houston today with RaQuel Hopkins. Hi, RaQuel.
Hi, Katie.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited for you to be on. I know your PR person, who was a very good friend of mine. I know that you are a member of Forbes Coaches Council, and you're doing big things at this really hard time. And I would love for you to kind of discuss how you got on your journey and where you are today and your experiences.
All right. I'm excited about being on, Katie. I was just telling Katie that before we started, I've kind of been sitting in some of my own stuff today and just doing some reflecting. And I think I'm going to share that with your listeners today, because I think that when we're able to share our stories, ultimately it helps people. And sometimes we like to hold pieces of those stories. And I realized today I've been holding a piece of my story because I don't want to be judged. And I want to share that. So I'm just giving you an idea of who I work with. My background is in HR. Right now, I work as vice president of HR for a global telecommunications company. And working my way up the ladder, checking all of the boxes in life, I finally got to a place to where I was like, okay, this is it. You've done all of the things. You have all of this stuff, right? So I found myself asking, what's next? Because I started to feel unfulfilled and very empty. I'm married. I have a 5-year-old son. Like, life is good in a lot of ways. And I was like, you're still not happy. So I ended up going on my journey, and somehow it led me to this coaching program. And I went to this coaching program. It was a 9-month program. And I went in. I am just like my clients. I am that high achiever, that high functioning person. So I went in, I'm like, give me the skills, like give me the tools and the skills that I need to be a coach. And they started doing work on me. And in the process of doing that work, I was like, man, like everybody should be afforded this opportunity to be able to get to experience coaching on this level. And the rest is history in that sense. But I want you to kind of like lead me, Katie, because like I said, I just had like this aha moment, and I'm like, I'm going to share it with Katie. She likes to be raw and authentic.
I do. I think one of the most important things that you have is that you wanted to bring this amazing, when you learn about your skills and your tools, you wanted to bring it to everyone, so that everybody, not only just executives, not only just people in very high positions, but really the masses, so that they could have what you had in that moment of just learning what your skills are, what your tools are, growing in an opportunity. What has been the most impactful thing during this journey for you?
Every day is different. Every day is different. And I think that has been an impact. Every day is really different. Like, you think that you can prepare for what's to come tomorrow because I would consider myself a person that makes pretty good decisions, right? But, life always is throwing like those little monkey wrenches, and you're like, I didn't plan for that. So I think that is the impact, being able to recognize that every day truly is different. It's kind of like what gets me.
Yeah. And do you reflect every day? Like today, this morning, you said you had a reflection where I'm going to share something raw. Do you do that every day, where you reflect on something and that moment kind of happens for you?
I don't. I believe that we can get so caught up into reflecting sometimes that we're not able to because I have all of my clients, that paralysis by analysis, like you get so deep into reflecting that sometimes you can get so carried away with it that it doesn't
so right
anymore.
I've been
reflecting. I don't. Like, if I'm reflecting on something and then 3 days later it's still bothering me, 4 days, okay, this is probably something that you kind of sit in and figure out what's actually going on, because everything doesn't require self-reflecting for me.
So what changed for you this morning when you were just kind of waking up, doing your thing? What was different?
Church.
Yeah.
I went to church this morning. And it wasn't so much church, but within the last, so just to give you a little back history, I ran far away from the church just based off of my upbringing. And then when I started on my journey, I kind of started searching like, okay, you need God. You need God because your grandmother said that you can't do life without God, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's the missing piece of why you're feeling unfulfilled, because you're spiritually dead.
Because you heard your grandma.
Right. So I started that. And then when the coaching program too, that was kind of my introduction into spirituality, right? Not necessarily religion, but my outlook and my views on the world. And they are still being challenged each and every day. And today I realized that I'm still holding on to a belief that I haven't let go, because I too struggle with fear, right? Or being judged. And if I'm going to continue to serve and help people, I think that it's important that I am authentic, right? So my kind of like my aha moment was last couple of days, because I'm back in school. I said after I had gotten my MBA, I would never go back to school again. Somehow I ended up in a master's program for clinical and mental health counseling, because I fell in love with coaching so much that I was like, I want to know what therapy is like and what truly is the difference. Like, so go back and get another degree. I love learning. And 2 weeks ago, I was like, maybe a week or two ago, I was like, why are you back in school? Like, for what? You don't need this degree in order to coach and start your full-time business. You don't need it. Yeah. So why? So I found myself questioning, because that's me adding on more work to my plate, right? Mm-hmm. So from being a wife to being a mom to still having my full-time job, my business on the side and school, I was like, this is kind of crazy. I didn't come up with an answer, and I didn't dig deeper. But in talking with Danielle and a few other people, PR person, and we, you know how we talk about content and how to connect with your audience and engage with your audience. And I have a podcast that I am going to release maybe in December. Awesome. And I realized that there's a piece of my story that I don't share. And the piece of that story, because I woke up and I was like, well, you don't have to go to school. You don't even have to start this coaching business. You don't have to see it through. And this morning, as I was listening to church, what came to me was being obedient to God, right? I've operated in my own power for a very long time, and operating in my own power, I believe that is what left me unfulfilled, right? So when you have those moments of wanting to quit, like I've even quit school, you don't even need to do this coaching business, because you're in the position that you're in. You get to bring coaching into your organization. You still get to serve people in the HR capacity. And you have all of the things. Why go and shake up your world? And it dawned on me, I was like, I'm privileged in a lot of ways, right? And to say that I'm privileged as a Black woman, it's hard for me to say that, because you want to be attached to the struggle. And then the truth is, I don't fear losing my full-time job or any of those other things. And I'll tell you why. And this is my truth. I actually worked for my uncle. And for years, I would not share that with anybody, because I didn't want anybody to take any credit from me. You're not going to say that somebody gave me something. I work hard. I work just as hard as you. I deal with the struggles of working with family and, not being able to separate those worlds. I've gotten my MBA. I studied, like I did all of the things that you've done. So I realized I was holding on to that piece. And that's why I say I had that aha moment of I'm privileged in a lot of ways, and I didn't want to recognize it. Right. So when I wake up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, why not? Because I'm not motivated by my why is no longer the external validation from others or the outside world. I don't worry about, is my son going to be okay anymore? I don't worry about money. I don't worry about any of those things. And I realized that I am being led by God. And that has been my prayer. God, continue to use me the way that you want to. And if that is to pursue this additional degree and to continue on the journey with my coaching business, then do that. And the power in that, Katie, is I don't have to. That's the biggest thing. I don't have to do it because I don't have to do it. Because of those luxuries that I've been afforded. I have an uncle that has a multi-million-dollar organization, but I realized that I fought against that for so long because I want to hold on to my life that grew up in the hood and the projects, had the mom that died from drugs, was in an abusive relationship myself by the time I was 15, 16 years old. Had an abortion by the age of 18, 19. I want to hold on to those things because in a lot of ways, it still defines me and gives me a reason to fight. But after going through my journey, like I've learned to surrender in a lot of ways. So the fighting, I don't have that same fight in me anymore. The fight looks different. And that's a piece of my story that I haven't shared.
Oh my goodness. You are a powerful person. I'm already inspired by you. I'm never speechless because I talk too much as it is. But I just think that was a lot. Like, you worked hard for where you are. Like, that should never be taken away from you. But the fact that society or the thoughts in your head has made you feel like you didn't earn where you are, that's a lot. And I always have some aha moments when I'm praying or I'm doing things like that, where you're just like, kind of like, no, you are who you are and you're where you're supposed to be. Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And your experiences, I mean, are only going to help other people in different levels of their careers or successes in life, and help them kind of get through that or get past that. And I love that you're going to get, I mean, probably not for you because of the time, but getting your therapy degree. I'm not sure what it is, if it's healthcare, specifically what degree it is. But for me, I think that is a huge piece to your puzzle because of how many different people you will relate to and how many different people you will be able to help along this journey that they're on. You're powerful.
Thank you.
I love that I met you.
I
today.
Appreciate it. I felt myself getting a little teary-eyed too, because I feel like the same way that I tell my clients, like, I've released, right? The pressure and the weight of world of saying that I haven't always had it, but at some point in my career, another person laid the foundation. So the thing that stood out to me in church today was it talked about how God will show clouds of witnesses to let you know that you can keep pushing. And I realized that my uncle has served that in my life, right? He hasn't had it easy or any of those other things, but with each generation, it's supposed to get better. And I thought about coaching and therapy, right? And I was like, I have my own views of therapy and how it helps with the healing, but there's another layer that can take you to the next level to where you're able to really live full out. And that's where my aha moment came, was like, we share our stories and our testimonies because if you can see that I can do it, or I'm dealing with these things, it's another reason, or gives you the inspiration to push another day ahead. And another day ahead. And when I look at my uncle, I'm like, man, like, I know his story. I know what he comes from. Like, life is supposed to get better. You have these people that come before you to let you know what's possible. And I fought it for so many years. I mean, I can remember when people like, how did you get that job? I'm like, same way you got your job. Like, what do you mean? I mean, well, honestly, I didn't interview with any of those other things. And I thought it's directly attributed to, I even thought about like people that look like me, Katie, which is why I started what I'm doing. Like, at what point do we take a step back and say that you do deserve all of the things, all of the good things? And that's anybody. And of course, things are heightened when it comes to race and all of those other things. But when you're not used to having or experiencing the good life, you never really get to a place of like accepting of that. And I've lived in that world for so long, which is why I ended up in the coaching and wanting to do the therapy.
And you kept adding another letter to your name. You kept adding another certification because you didn't feel at first you were deserving, and you're 100% deserving. Like, again, just like you said before we started, like everyone's put like in front of you for a reason. And your uncle went through what he did to then put you in a spot where then you can help others, to then put, like there's so many little pieces to your puzzle. And it just makes you that much more aware of everyone else's spot in their life. Like, why do they feel like they need this for validation? Why, especially as a leader that you've been in this leadership position? I'm very firm. I love leading people. It's one of my favorite things, but there's so much work to be done. The leader needs to do, and adding that to your story and owning where you felt for so long, but knowing you have reflected today, reflecting that you have, like you're reflecting that you did deserve this shit. Like you're here, excuse my language, but you're here because you deserve it. And I love that you're going to bring all of that to the table with coaching and for your clients. And it just brings another extra layer to you that is even better. I absolutely love authenticity because I feel there's so much more connection when you are just bring your whole real self to the table, and I love learning too. So just hearing your stories or what you felt you needed to do to validate where you are, and it's just like, wow, you don't really see that. Because when someone sees you, there's like successful coach, VP of HR, like, and they don't see that there's always going to be those layers you're going to struggle with. So now you're telling people that it's okay to be real. Like, it's so important.
And not to forget the other layer, right, too, because when you step from under this umbrella of your uncle, there's another weight of pressure because he sets the bar high, right?
Yeah.
So anything that you do, it needs to be excellent. And I didn't even realize that I'm carrying that too. Like, I know it, but I didn't know it. And I was like, okay, there's some conflict internally going on with you for the last week or two. Like, one day you want to quit. Next day you want to go and bite your uncle's head off because
where's this coming from?
Right.
Yeah, because you think you're leveling up, but at times you're just like, this is too much. Like, this is not a level up. I'm angry now. I need to step back. What made you the most kind of excited about sharing this extra layer? Because as hard as it was, what's that? You knew just from your education, from everything you've been with clients, like you knew sharing that would give you some sense of relief. Like, did that excite you? What was the excitement from that?
Well, let me tell you what's crazy, right? So I was reading this second degree last night. And there's so many modalities and theories that you can use when you're counseling a client. And relational therapy is RCT. I don't remember. Relational culture therapy. Don't quote me on that,
okay.
Right?
Okay.
But it's all about being your authentic self. And a lot of people will tell you, like, when you go to see your therapist, it's all about you, right? And I've been trying to find, like, which modality will I practice? Which one resonates with me more? And I land upon this relational piece where it talks about sharing parts of yourself with your clients so that they know that they're not in this alone. Not putting the focus on yourself, but doing it in a way that it's in the best interest of your clients. And I was like, you know what? I really, really like this because I believe in authenticity, right? And I don't believe in people putting you in a box. And I know that a lot of people talk about CBT, and that was one of the other reasons. Like, I want to know all of the things therapy. Like, I love reading and learning. Like, I just love it. I was reading that, and then I thought about what I was struggling with for the last week or so. And then I hear that in church, and I was like, there it is. Like, share it.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
It so happened I was talking to you, and I was like, do I share it with her? Should I share it with her? Who's going to hear? And then I was like, you know what? She sent me an email. She says raw and authentic, and that's what I'm going to give Katie. So you heard it here first.
I like to tell everyone for my billion viewers, because there's a billion out there. But I love that because this is exactly what my podcast is. I have been real and authentic to share all pieces of me that are embarrassing to the labels I've been given. All of my guests have given, no matter where they are in their life. they have given their story of how they've gotten there, and it is not always pretty. It is messy. And there is reflection, not every day. Because I really like that you said you should not be doing that every day because it takes up a lot of time. But there are those aha moments. But I love that you shared it today because not only did I meet you for the first time, but I saw your credentials. You're already a badass on paper, right? And now you're really a badass. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, on paper you're a badass, but also just in real life you're a badass. So for me, that's big. And yeah, raw and unedited is what I go for. And I love that those little signs that you got from your reading your huge book for school and from church and from just an email, you're like, this is where it is. And that's what you got to tell people, like make the leap, like just jump. Like sometimes you just got to do it. You got all the signs, you know?
Trust your intuition, which is hard for many, especially when you want to follow the rules. And that's what my coaching business is built upon. Like there are no rules to follow. You make the rules. You're the co-creator of your life. You're in control of your message. And it's so crazy. Shout out to Danielle, my PR person. But she was like, she sent me a message just to check in on me this morning. And are you prepared? Do you need me for anything? And of course, she was telling me that, you know, it's going to be raw. And one of the things she said, you control what you share. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in control this morning. I'm not going to prepare because I researched you. I saw all of the things. I was like, she's driven by people the same way that I am. Like,
super
driven by people. Your typical conversations. But I was like, no, I'm going to give it to her real. And it brings me to, I don't know if you saw, but my brand, there's a lifestyle brand. It's Success is Complicated. And that's how I just explain life. Like it's complicated, whether you're striving to get to the top or while you're at the top, it's complicated. And every day you're trying to peel back some pieces to make it a little less easier for you. So Success is Complicated is all about like following your intuition, being authentic, removing some of those pressures and those norms. It's kind of like, for me, it's a reminder that it's not going to be easy. It's not even supposed to be easy, but you can do it.
Yeah. I love Success is Complicated. It kind of cracks me up though. It reminds me of the Facebook option where you can put relationship is complicated and people
and that is too, right? But you know, I've included all those things, right?
That's true.
I say, I want to be successful as a mom. I want to be successful as a wife. I want to be successful as a friend. Like you want to be successful in all of these things.
But it's hard.
It is hard.
It's real hard. And I am with you all the way. And there's some days where I'm like, I'm going to take this failure of not going outside with the kids today or not doing, like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to own it. But somewhere I was successful in this day. So I'm going to figure out where it was and I'm going to run with it. But it's complicated and it takes hard work. I think people forget it does take a lot of work. And that's why I love that you shared what you shared because you have done the work. You know, like nothing was handed to you. You did the work. So it's not it was completely earned everywhere you are. And as a coach, as a leader, I think you're in exactly where you're supposed to be. Because I'm inspired just talking to you. I can't imagine the clients that have been with you for your program or things like that. And just consistently get these conversations. And since you love reading, I'm assuming you have outlines for every meeting and you have things that are just set up so that their success is complicated, but it's doable. You know, it can happen. It's just, you gotta put the effort in. How cool is that? Okay. So how cool is it to be a part of Forbes?
You want my honest opinion? I think that others love it.
Good for PR. Don't do it.
I'm going to say it anyway. I think that it's just like how you were saying, like I'm a badass on paper, right? Like everybody sees those things. But to me, it's just another tool. It's just another tool. I'm just in a different space today. Like I recognize what it looks like on paper. and that it serves me in a lot of ways, but I'm not like super.
Yeah. I get what you're saying though. I know, I get it. I totally get the paper thing, right? But we're super cool just in real life, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But it is like when you see Forbes, people just like, it's for other people to just get hype, right?
Right. Here you have it.
You're like, yay, I didn't say it, she did.
I said it, I know. You asked the question,
I meant me.
though, Katie.
I said it.
Okay.
So I was very impacted by one of my HR directors. When I worked in Miami, I helped run a floor of 50 reps from all different backgrounds, cultures. Miami is a melting pot. But she was one of the most like impactful women in my life because of just the things she said, how intelligent she was. She was a Black Cuban woman. And I think her dad was Cuban and her mom was Black. She was very strong personality, but she said so many things that totally shaped me as a leader. And I feel like HR is that. And now in a corporate atmosphere has kind of been put as like a scary thing, right? HR for a lot of corporate America is scary. And I feel like HR was everything to me. Like she taught me so many things when I got promoted and moved up the ladder. How do you feel like that changes in like corporate America? And do you take on mostly HR leaders or really anyone?
Any leader.
Okay.
Any leader. And I would agree with you, which is one of the reasons why I don't enjoy HR as much as I do, because it's the positioning, right? So there's this narrative of employees have the narrative that HR is your be all, and they work for you, right? And I actually did an article in Forbes about this and explaining to people that the same person that cuts your check cuts my check, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, being able to find the balance, right? Like I naturally love people. I like to see people win, right? But when you're in this HR role, how do you ensure that the organization is still winning and the people are winning? And that's where I struggle with, especially once I was like, I can be that badass, because I'm not the same leader that I was in the beginning, right? I would fire you. I would probably tell you off, give you the cold shoulder, but it just wasn't natural for me.
Yep.
So just kind of like going through the ropes, I found my natural way of being able to navigate in HR, and it is being authentic. Not leading with fear. I think that's what people end up doing the most. We end up leading with fear because we feel that you have something to protect, whether it's your reputation, your job. I guess in my case, a lot of times I felt like not only is it my reputation, but it's my uncle's reputation. Like, I don't want to let him down. So there was always this other layer. So you always have to be on it. And what happens is we forget to serve the people. Which is why I love coaching so much, right? Because it really is just about you and the person that you're working with. You don't have to worry about the bottom line or the ROI when it comes to these employees. You don't have to worry about the turnover and all those things. And coaching you do to some aspect, right? But you're able to really get down and dirty. I think that coaching is, most people have this perception that coaching is like finding your purpose and finding your passion, but coaching is like the ugly work as well, just like counseling is if you have the right coach, right? Yeah. There are some tough questions, some reflections that are thrown back that make you really challenge like who you are and who you say you want to ultimately become. Because I think coaching is about who you want to become, which makes me think about like legacy, right? Legacy is passing something from one person down to the next. And when I think about leadership, I think about that in the same aspect, right? If we feel like we have to continue to fight and do all those other things, we pass the same mindset down. The next person is fighting, which means that we move further and further away from truly helping people.
Oh, I love that. And that goes just to basic values of people. When you see people like arguing, it's like, what do those people value? You and I both value people. We value people to get to where they want to be, to feel successful, to feel fulfilled. I like how you say it's not always about finding your purpose. It's actually just getting to where you want to be next. Like it's just getting to that next step. And we all go through different seasons. And I think you're right with HR when you have it under a corporate umbrella is they don't get to focus on the people like they originally signed up for. And for me, we did work in corporate, but we were kind of like, we call like the outside office. So we were like in Miami, everybody was in Massachusetts. So she was able to really run her show in HR. And now being in so many different corporations, Tesla, Samsung, things like that. And just, I'm very put off sometimes because I'm like, gosh, HR would have been my jam because I always thought it was for the people. And now, like that's what I thought. But now that you can kind of step aside and see what you liked about the job and what has been stopping you, you get to kind of move forward with the coaching part. And it gets super ugly when people want to do the work. So they better be ready to do the work because it's real ugly when you're facing some of the things you have to face. But that's when you feel the most fulfilled. I mean, when someone comes back to you and is like, here I am. It was really hard work, but you got me here. I mean, that's when you feel the best. And that's how you know you love people. If you didn't give a shit about it, you wouldn't want to be a coach. Yeah, that's cool.
In HR, I think our favorite line is like, we have an open door policy. Come in here and you can talk to me about anything, right? And then they come in here and they, because we're not perfect, right? We're all flawed to some degree. And then they tell you something and you're like, well, your caveat is, HR would try and keep things as confidential as possible, but it can't. My favorite line now, because I've learned, I'm like, well, I can't keep this confidential, so I have to say something, right? I'm like, oh, and then they're like, oh, HR sucks because they don't keep anything confidential, right? And then I had another layer. They're like, oh, and she tells her uncle everything. So for me, like really trying to find my way, I was like, oh my gosh, like this. You're a terrible HR person. You're never going to be good. So I just started being upfront. Like, look, I'll try and keep things as confidential as possible, but be mindful of the things that you're sharing with me because I can't guarantee that I can keep it confidential, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to if I'm serving as your coach, right? It's confidential. Yeah. Like you and I just have this relationship. So that's one of the pieces that I enjoy because you see, especially these high achievers, high functioning people, like they are no different from your average Joe. They're struggling with some things. And when you see these things, I believe in second chances and giving people the benefit of the doubt. Even if I was just mad at you yesterday, I'm usually one of those people that can wake up today and be like, Katie had a bad day yesterday. In fact, I know that Katie has so many other things going on in her life, and that could be the reason why she's showing up that way. HR doesn't allow you to do that because time is money, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, how long are you going to have this issue? Because you're starting to affect the bottom line. In fact, 2 people just quit. So you're probably next, right? So I don't like that part. I'll be honest. I don't like that part. Like I want to build the relationships. I want to get to know you. I want you to, because part of like work-life balance is, and that's why I say, people are like, why don't you just be an executive coach? Because I don't coach executives. I don't coach titles. I coach people. Mm-hmm. Because you bring all of it to work with you. And I know that to be true because I could be at a barbecue on Saturday or Sunday with my uncle, and we just had an argument about my grandmother or something. And then on Monday, I'm still mad and I still have to work. You can't really separate. And I think it's the craziest thing, like people, you separated and you be strong and you turn off this part of your life. Well, I'm living proof that it doesn't work that way. Like you bring all of that stuff into work with you. And that's one of the things that made me, I think, a better HR person because I was able to recognize that. I'm like, well, if somebody just had a fight with their spouse last night, like you don't expect them to come in and be on their game, like to be perfect every day. But, and as I learned that through my own experiences, right. And knowing the things that I was struggling, it made me a better HR leader because One point, I would fire my dad. I would fire my best friend. Like, I just don't have the patience for it. But you realize that, everybody is fighting some battle.
I think that's one of your superpowers, though. Like, you've actually seen it from an HR perspective, for people perspective. You've had to bring your real self to the table because the corporate way, bottom line, isn't the way you want to go. And you've seen like the differences. So that's a huge experience for someone, because not everyone has been able to fire someone. Not everyone's been able to have those meetings where some huge issue comes about and you have to actually lay out a process, or you have to fire someone through that meeting, or you have to have another meeting on top of that, or like not everybody brings that to the table. And that's big. And although a lot of executives might come to you, you're right. You're coaching people and you can get them to the next level in their life. It's not a title. It's just getting them to the next level. Super awesome. This is cool. This is a really good conversation. I'm happy. RaQuel, what do you kind of want to leave the listeners with today? A little bit of words of wisdom.
Share your truth. Your truth is your power. And that power may be the next thing that allows another person to be able to push through. And you do have a say so in when you share it, how you share it, and who you share it with. So there's no pressure to do it. I always tell people, recognizing that we have choice. Because I've chosen to sit on mine for the last 10 years or so and just decided to share it today. So when you're ready, and I feel that that's when people benefit the most.
Oh, yeah. That's also huge, too, when people aren't forced to share something or put on the spot where they're just not ready to do that. And I love that you are ready today. And I think that takes you in your mind and your heart to the next level of your coaching business. Where can we find you?
I am on Instagram. I am RaQuel, RaQuel Hopkins on Instagram. And that's my website. I am RaQuel Hopkins. And I also have a Success is Complicated page. So no hyphens or anything. It's just Success is Complicated.
I love that. I'll remember that forever. RaQuel, I think I said RaQuel at the beginning. If it's RaQuel, I apologize. My bad. But you're going to find RaQuel on my Not a Great Whisperer page. Your katieray.com. You will find us on all of the major platforms for podcasts. I think we should have another episode to kind of check in on everything going on and you kind of taking that leap and doing all the things. So I've just now invited you and made you commit to it on air. So thank you. Thank you.
Happy to do it, Katie. Happy to do it.
Thank you for your confirmation. And I was really excited to meet you today. I can't wait to follow you and see all the things you're doing. You are amazing. And I love where you are. I think only way from here is up, and you're going to help so many people along the way. And I'm a sucker for helping people. So thanks for being on Not a Great Whisper. And we are at BKN Creative Studio. RaQuel met us all the way from Houston. And thank you everyone for listening.